Hi everybody, welcome back to Plastic Models by Regular Dude. And got the Sherman, the Asuka Sherman M4 A3 76 wet VVSS late back on the bench. So everything has been done except for the tools and well, basically the tools. Once the tools are done, then I can move on to priming and then get on to paint. But first, I need to do something for the tools. So the tools, I've got those all cleaned up and prepped and ready to go. I was going to paint them off of the vehicle, but I have changed my mind. I'm going to paint them on the vehicle. I've just found anymore it's just as easy to do that as it is to paint them off the vehicle. So that's what I'm going to do. So the thing is, though, is I want this to be somewhat realistic. And in order to be somewhat realistic, it's going to have some straps to hold the tools on. Now, I've already put these holders in place that I talked about, I think, in my last video. These little photo etch pieces here. And I put them where the molded on ones were. I scraped those off, put these in place. So what I'm going to do is I need to make some straps. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm basically going to use some tape. Now obviously this is too wide, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some Tamiya tape, cut some really thin strips, you know, kind of scale size, and use those. But then I have the problem of buckles, and I have a solution for that as well, I think. So what you can see here, hopefully, is a very teeny tiny, hopefully it'll focus, yeah, a little buckle. Okay, is it 100% accurate? Probably not, but that's all I've got, and I sure don't want to wait for any more parts because this project's been stalled waiting for stuff, and now I'm rolling. So what I've done is this, and let me demonstrate. So what we have here are some old bedroll tarps, whatever you want to call them, from Monogram kit. I think these actually came from Monogram Lee, the old 70s Monogram Lee kit. Now I keep all this kind of stuff. I would never use one of these on a kit just because, you know, look at them. They're just, I mean, it was okay for the 70s, and you could probably clean them up and make them look decent. And they did look good, you know, back then, especially for somebody just building stuff out of the box. But according to today's standards, they just wouldn't hold water. But stuff like these little buckles are pretty handy. So here's what I'm doing. I'm taking my handy dandy miter box, my X-Acto miter box, and my X-Acto miter saw, and cutting right along the edge of the buckle thusly. Once I have one side cut off, then I just move on over to the other side of the buckle and cut that as well. So once you have the sides cut off, then it's just a matter of trimming this off. And it's pretty easy. Just get your X-Acto knife, put it on, and do it at an angle, because if you have a little bit of extra material, that's okay, because it can be trimmed off. You just don't want to destroy your buckle while you're doing it. Okay, see there's a lot of let's say flash around there, but that's okay because you can just trim and sand it off like that. I'm gonna try and do that. You know what? I'm gonna use my tweezers to hold it in place. See, now we can see. So just cut around a little pin part of the buckle. Turn it around. And that way you have a nice looking little buckle. All right, so now all I have to do is just make my straps of the appropriate width and put these on there. Now these might be, you know, a little out of scale, but it's all I've got, so I'm gonna go with it and be stoked. Okay, something else I need to do here is I've got these two, the sledgehammer and the track adjusting tool, or whatever you call it, in place, and they need some holders. Now I looked online and I found a pretty good photo, and it looks like for on the sledgehammer there's kind of a like a C-shaped bracket that comes up and around, and then this part right here is a bracket that holds it into place. And then on this tool there's a pin that goes through here, which is kind of simulated here in plastic, and then a strap across here, so you pull a pin, lift this, and slide it out. So that's the first one I'm doing. And what I've done is I've got a bunch of photo etch left over from a long abandoned kit. Actually, I'm going to finish it, but I'm just not going to have this stuff on it. A lot of photo etch. So there's like these little things here, and I've got one, and I use my self clamping tweezers here to bend it. So then what I need to do is I need to trim it off on the one side, because it's going to be hard to see, but this side here that's it's got the little groove common on photo etch where you're supposed to bend something, so I'll be able to bend that one easily. This side not so much, so that's the side I bent using the tweezers, and now I just need to cut it off to kind of match the length of the other one. And I'm using these awesome flipping snippers here. So let's see, let's make sure I'm cutting the right side. Yeah, and I need to guess at the length. It's about like that. If it's not exact, you know, I'm not gonna lose any sleep over it, so cut that like that. Oh, that looks just about right. And those little snips are just flipping awesome. I love them. They're great for doing stuff like this. Okay, and then this side here, I'm going to get this lined up as good as I can against that little bendy mark and bend it over. Like that. And that looks pretty close. The one side maybe a little bit long, but you know what? I'm not sure I'm going to sweat that. So let's take it and put it on here and see how it looks. Oh yeah. Yep, that'll work. That's close enough for government work. So I'll glue that into place in a minute. So now I need to do the little like C-shaped thing for there, and for that I'll need to use something round but small. I should have done it on there. Oh, you know what? I think I will try it on Let me find something small and round. Okay, so I'm gonna use, I'm gonna try and use this right here. And this extra piece of a little bit of photo etch that was left over from that other piece I made. So we'll just put that on here like this. And give it a good mash. Whoa. Maybe that's kind of a short piece. Yeah, it didn't work because I had one of those little kinks in it for cutting stuff. So let me get another one here. We'll cut this off. Just shout out if I'm getting out of frame or anything. Like I can hear you. Okay, so the way I got my camera set up, I should stay in frame. So let's see. Let's get this again. And let's bend this around here like okay, that looks pretty good. So let's make it more of a U instead of a kinked up thing. Okay, let's check the radius on that. A little large, so let's try and pinch it up just a little bit more because I want it to fit a little bit more snug on there. Whoops. Yeah, it looks a little bit better. It's a little tighter. Okay, let's check that. That's still a little bit large. I need something a little bit smaller than that. Let's just try mashing it a little bit, because the photo I saw of one, it sure didn't look that that awesome and round. Let's try and mash it around this, shall we? So let's use, I'm gonna be real sad if I bust this because it's a part I need to glue on here. Okay, that's a little better. Okay, and I need to kind of twist it back into shape. Like that, kinda. There we go. All right, so now let's trim this off because that looks pretty good. So let's see if I can do this without launching it. Bingo rocks. Yeah, right there. So let's turn it this way and cut that little piece off. Looky there, folks. Now, I really should round that off just a little bit because the one I saw, was slightly rounded. So I'll give that a little trim there. See how fine these things cut? Aren't they just amazing? Right there, folks. So let's... Okay. This is really tiny, folks. It's making me scared. Holy Toledo, look at that. That is what I'm talking about. I'm stoked. So I'm going to slide that down just a little bit. Sorry I bumped the thing with my noggin, but because the photo I saw was kind of down to one end. Now looky there. Ta-da. So now all I got to do is glue those into place. For that, I will use thin super glue. Okay, I got me a little bit of super glue right here in my homemade applicator. Let's hope it works. So let's see, I'm gonna hold that in place. That was my wife.
Huh?
I was just telling them that was my wife talking to the cat.
I think you were online.
Hee hee.
Say live. Thanks for the warning, turd.
No problem. All right, there's that one. And let's see, let's get some of that off of there. And a little bit there. Like that. All right, so those are glued into place and hopefully they stuck. Yep. That one is working on it. That one is not staying, so there we go. That should hold it. Hold it there for a second. Hopefully that'll stay. Now, some of you looking at this might say, hey, what's that in the upper right hand corner? Looks like straps. Those may actually work for what I want to do on the tools. But we're going to have to see. So, let's see what the other tools are that need to be glued down. Okay, so we got those. So it looks like, let's see, that's there. All right, the other tools go on this side here. So we've got not a very good illustration going on. Oh, there we go. Okay, so here's the illustration showing how they're laid out. Okay, so let's see. The axe has another one of those loopy things, which I can make. And perhaps a strap. Then the pick head has a strap. or has a little mount with, looks like a strap, so that's where that will be. And then the shovel has the clamp built on, and then the goes around that. So what I need to do is see if these straps are going to work. So let me cut one off here and see if it's going to work. Man, I'd sure like to have some more of those for the future. Those are pretty cool. Let's see. And I can just save my buckles there for another project. In case I don't have any of these, or in case these don't work. Because there is that possibility. Now you'll notice that I'm not using a piece of glass or tile or anything crazy like that. I have found that I do not have a problem cutting photo edge. On my cutting mat, I've never had anything bend, even a little small teeny tiny stuff. So I figured, why dull up my knives when there ain't no need? And there's less chance of things just flying off to Never Never Land. Okay, so let's see. So the shovel. Let's take the shovel. I'm thinking I need to work from the top down. So let's start with the axe. So let's get the axe. Oh, and it's got the little clampy thing, so that's cool. That's good enough for me. Don't have to make an extra one. Okay, so that goes there. So right about here is where this thing needs to bend. So let's put it on here and bend it around. And the nice thing is I can get pretty groovy extra hanging flappy bit, and it'll have the holes in it. Oh. I'm not going to demonstrate all these because this, as you can see, is going to take forever. So let's see how that lines up with our little mounting section there. Actually, it might be better to go from the bottom because I can feed them through from the top. Well, I just spit all over my tank. Can you believe that? Yeah, see, I can feed it through like that. Yeah, that's too long. So I'm going to have the buckle more on top, and I may have to trim some of that off. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to start from the bottom with the shovel because I think that would be easiest. So let's get that. Let's get the shovel. Put it in place there. Yeah, I'm going to have to change that bend on that. So that looks good there. I think I can actually just glue this into place now, save myself some headaches. Just feed it through from the top. So let's do that. like that. So let me let that set up really good before I start monkeying around with this strap. All right, so there you go. Now, I did not demonstrate that because it is quite precarious. However, it's not really that bad. It just takes a little bit of patience. So basically what I did is I glued the shovel in place, got my bend kind of where I wanted on this side. Let me show you how I set it up. Keep in mind there's also a top and a bottom. The bottom is just completely flat. The top has a little bit of detail like where the buckle is. So keep that in mind. So what I did is I bent it around the tool that I was doing. So let's see, I can do this one here just to show you. So I just basically my next tool, as a matter of fact, is going to be this here. Now this one should be quite crazy. I bend it around like this, okay, with the piece glued in place. I slid it down like, oh man, like this. Oh man, come on, they're right there like that. Now on this one I'm going to have to carefully pull that up, but then once I get it pulled up and bent around, now if you glue these on good enough with your super glue, they won't come off. Just be real easy as you bend it up around that clamp or footman's loop or whatever they call it, and then carefully feed this end through your buckle, pull it kind of snug, then with the strap through the buckle just pull it straight back down like that, and you're good to go. Now I'm going to wait and get all these in place and then I'll super glue them, but first I need to glue this in place, and so it can be ready to go. Okay, I got the next one on around the pick handle. Now I would really like to be able to get a hold of these somehow. If anybody watching this knows where to get this kind of stuff, I would really be interested to see that, because that is one thing that's just always lacking on these. And man, they work really good. So much so that I'm going to attempt to demonstrate how it works on this axe here. So first things first, make my bend to go around the tool itself. Okay, that looks pretty good. Okay, then I'm gonna back it up just a little bit so that way I can feed this through. Now, when I was doing this one here, I had one side of this break loose. I just glued it back and just kept going. So here's the way I do it. So I feed it through like this. I use the tip of my knife. Now again, I probably should have done it the other way. I should have started at the top and worked my way down, but I didn't. And that's okay, because this is totally doable. So I just, man, sorry I bumped my head on there. I'm going to twist this just a little bit, guys. Sorry. Give myself some room to work. So get it underneath and then carefully use my knife to bend the tip of the strap up so I can get a grip on it with the tweezers. Oh, looky there. Don't even have to grip it. Perfect. All right, so that went like that, so that's good. So now, again, because this is brass, it's really soft. And try and line, this is just the way I do it. I'm telling you what to do. This is the way I do it. Sorry. Try and line up the little footman's loop or whatever you call it with a hole, because it'll bend easier there. And then just bend it like that. Then take your tweezers. You know what? Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit on this, so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so we've got it through the loop. I'm just kind of holding a little bit right back here, then taking my tweezers, feed the end, through the buckle, thusly. Now once it's through the buckle, what I want to do is I want to try and get a nice kink by smashing that down. That way it looks like, you know, it's wrapped at least snugly around something. Then pull it down like this, and there you go. Now the extra little bit of loopage, you could cut it off, or if you want, or tuck it underneath. Now I'm not sure if these should actually have holes in them, or if they should be solid, like a pull-through strap, like on a you know, like a canvas bag or something. So any of you out there who might know, let me know. That way I'll know for next time. This time, this is how it's going to be. So if you want, you can feed this extra little bit underneath the tool on the that's below it, and get it to lay down like that. Okay, so now they're all strapped on there. Now whether or not they're supposed to have holes in there or not, I don't know, but that's what I got. So again, if anybody knows, please let me know. That way I'll know for next time. So now, off camera, I'm gonna super glue all this stuff into place so it doesn't move around. Well, I'm letting this super glue dry so I can glue this last part down. If anybody can tell me if it's supposed to be solid or straps with holes, and let me know, that would be great, because my plan is to if they're supposed to be solid, I'm just going to take a little bit of thick PVA glue and fill in any of the holes that you can see, and that way it'll, you know, it'll look like an appropriate strap. So I'm going to glue these other little bits on, these other tools. So we got the handy dandy pick handle here. They have like very shallow locating holes. Got that end. That end. And lastly, the tanker bar, or whatever the technical term is for it. Do want to get this mold seam line off here. there. And I think with that completes construction, except for the stuff down there, of course. So let me get these, make sure these are glued down, which they aren't yet. That one is, so we'll put the little bit underneath there. Push that down into place. So the next part, let's see, I'm gonna have to get everything prepped for primer and paint. I'm going to do something a little bit different with my primer this time. And many of you will probably look at me like I'm one of them there what you call psychopaths. That's okay. I can handle it. So let me glue this down and then we'll come back. All right, so here we are. This is ready to be primed. So what's the plan? For this one, I'm going to approach it a little bit differently than I normally do. All right, so here we are. Everything is ready for primer. So what am I going to do that's different? Well, this time I am going to try a little something. And that is, I'm going to use my gray primer for the upper surfaces and the sides. Upper surfaces, sides. I'm going to use my black primer underneath here, underneath here, underneath here. Probably along the back. So basically just the upper surfaces coming down and these sides. Upper surfaces, sides, underneath here, I'm going to do with black primer. Why am I doing that? Well, it's kind of an experiment. I'm not much of one for the whole modulation technique. People who use it get great results, that's fine. That's just not my gig. So what I'm going to do, but I do like to have the upper surfaces a little more faded looking and the underneath surfaces a little more shadowy. So what I'm going to do is use the black down below, the gray up top, spray my paint like normal, and see how it turns out. The first thing I'll prime will probably be the tracks here, and I'll use black for that, I think. You know what though, actually I might use gray just so I can see what I'm doing better, because I'm going to just put a dark coat over it anyway. So that's the next step. So let me get everything ready and get my work surface ready here with my usual bag of tricks. And we'll get cracking. All right, ready to go. So I'm using, as I said, I'm going to be spraying black underneath all the way around. I'm going to be spraying black kind of under here and under here. The backs and sides of the bogies. Interior part, back of the idler and the drive sprocket. And then once I do that, I'll be ready for the gray. So first thing I did, I'm using the black MIG one-shot primer, which is rebottled Stynel res from what I hear. And I shook and shook and shook and shook and shook and shook and shook. Then I got my little Tamiya paddle stirring stick down at the bottom. There was still sludge in the bottom. So this stuff really has to be mixed up well. And I would suggest even, if you don't have one of these things, they're pretty cheap and they work great because long spout gets all the way down to the bottom, gets all that sludge stirred up, so you get a really good mix. Spray it. I'm going to use my Iwata HP M2, and I'm going to do my usual thing here and just get started and come back and show you what I've got done instead of making you endure the whole thing. So sprayed a magical portion in there. Don't know if it's enough. I don't know if it's too much or too little. We shall see. So let's see. All right, I'm gonna put my cap on for this. All right, check my flow here. All right, we're good to go. So splendid. So I'm going to continue on with this and come back once it's all done. All right, so here you can see I've got the lower hull up to there, sprayed black primer that is. Same thing with the bogies and wheels and the drive sprockets. Also got underneath here. So the next part, once my airbrush dries out really good, I'm going to mix up the Stynel Res Gray, make sure that's thoroughly mixed, and I'll be spraying that on the tracks. And the reason I'm using gray on the tracks is just so I get good coverage, because it's kind of hard to see black on black. And then spray everything else on the upper portions. All right, same things before, but gray Stynel Res this time. Just like that. So I'll come back once it's all sprayed up. Okay, so I've got the tank painted, primed it, got it painted. Can tell a little bit of a difference between where I put the black primer and the gray primer. Not a whole lot, but a little bit. So I may continue doing this in the future. You can tell a little bit better on the front here, I think. But, you know, it's something to try. I'll experiment with it, because I'm always doing things different. Got all the bogies done. As you can see, I did the dark on the back, lighter on the front. So I'm doing the tracks right now, and what I'm doing first is I'm airbrushing the, I'm spraying the track pad parts with NATO black, just thin down a little bit. I primed them with the gray Stynylrez res, and so I'm just trying to make sure that the edges are all painted, and I'll kind of demonstrate what I'm going to do with the tracks here. Tracks is something else. I just don't seem to do the same way twice. I'm always trying different things, and this is no exception, because a lot of times what you see, and I guess it would depend on the context, but you'll see the track end connectors really rusty. Now I'm sure there's times when it's like that, but I'm not thinking for an operational vehicle, unless it's been sitting for a few weeks in the wet, that it would be to just rusty orange. So from looking at different photos of operational tanks, you know, World War II tanks, Shermans and stuff like that, and ones that are just sitting around, the track end connectors are almost more just like, are almost like a tan dusty color with maybe a little bit of rust in it. Then obviously other dirt and crud, stuff like that, depending on if it is an operational vehicle. But that's what I'm going to attempt to do here. So, but first I need to paint the black. And I'm using NATO black because, as you can see, it's not just a stark black. It's got a little, in this light it looks like it's got almost a greenish hue, but in other lights it doesn't seem to be like that. But it's just not a stark black, and it's better, I think, for painting rubber. Now I know Tamiya makes a rubber black, and I haven't used it, and I think it may have a little bit of a brownish cast to it, but I'm not sure. But that would be really good, I think. And one of these days when I order some paint, if my supplier has it, I may give that a shot. But for now, it's NATO black, and that's what I've been using for rubber stuff for a long time. So what I'm doing first, I've already painted the outside, the outer surface of the track pads. I've already done that. Now I'm getting the inside. Okay, so that's perfect. Just about ran out of paint. And so far, so good with the Stynylrez primer on these tracks. All right, so let me clean my airbrush. Okay, for this part, for the end connectors, I am using Tamiya Flat Earth XF52. That'll give me a nice kind of a tannish color. I don't know if you can see, but the stars is a better representation. I put a little bit of dab paint on there of the color than what this is. And I'm using my TRN1 because I want to get up pretty close and get just the end connectors. I think I got my paint a little bit too thin. So my next batch I'll mix a little thicker. I just eyeballed this one. I didn't measure it out. Oh, it's okay. Now keep in mind, these aren't going to stay this color. This is just kind of like a base for the for further paint and weathering. Okay. But it's a good starting point. Now, if you get a little bit of overspray, don't sweat it too much because tracks are going to get all dusty and dirty anyway. I'm not being super careful here. Get my rhythm going here. Whoops. Okay. So let that dry. Go on to this one. Actually, I'm getting a little bit overspray, but that's okay because we can fix that. So you see what I'm doing here. So when I get all this done, I'll come back and let you see what it looks like. When you're done, you get this. Now there's some overspray on the tracks, but again, that's not a big deal because we're going to be dirtying these things up, and this is kind of just doing a little bit of it for you, I guess. And then if you know you're doing something that's maybe something that's driving on a hard surface like asphalt or cobblestones or something, you could always take some NATO black or whatever and then just dry brush the top of these chevrons to make it look like they're coming in contact with, you know, bare streets or something. But I don't think that'll be necessary because I'm going to be getting these all dirtied up anyway. But we got that much done, so then we can go on, once this dries good, working in a bit of color on there. Okay, so here's what I've done. 502 Untitled Dark Rust, which is like this. It's not a real bright orange. Made up a pretty nice mixture of that, and then I'm just using my usual brush for doing this kind of stuff, and I'm just running it along the end connectors, basically just to get an alternate color in the detail. Like that. Now all this is just base. I mean, this is just like painting a base coat for me. This is like painting the base coat on the kit of olive drab or whatever colors you're using on the particular kit, because it'll be further alterated and enhanced with weathering. This is just a base. So it's like if Private Dimweed was in the motor pool and was being punished and was told he had to wash the tanks, this is what it would look like when he was done. Now, whoa. I could probably use a bigger brush and get more done at once, but I don't want to flood this. I just want to get the detail stuff. Now I'll come back and do the extended end connectors after I get all of just the end connectors done. Now, if you wanted, you could use brown. You could use black, but I don't think that would look great. But a dark brown would work. And we're just wanting to just give it a little bit of variation, not just have it just be that, to me, a flat earth. So I'm going to continue on with this, and then I'll do a side-by-side comparison with the other track that I haven't done this to yet. All right, so there you go. The one on the left is the one that I've put this wash on. The one on the right doesn't. So I'm gonna go ahead and do this one, and once this one dries up, I'm gonna do one more thing to it just to make it just a little bit more alive. All right, after that wash dried, I made up another wash of Untitled dark mud and went over all of the end connectors and guide teeth and all that. And then as a last step, just to bring some of the highlights out a little bit more, I used the Vallejo Model Color Pale Sand very lightly and kind of hit the edges of the all of the metal parts, just to kind of bring out that edge detail a little bit. Now again, this is just all base stuff because it's all going to be covered up. Well, not covered up, but subdued somewhat with weathering. So the next part I need to do is I need to figure out what I need to do with the decals. So let me get the decal sheet out and take a look and see what decals I need to use on this kit. All right, the markings I'm going to use are for 6th Armored Division, Germany, 1945. Now, it looks like there's some shipping stencils on here. There's a vehicle code or serial number. I can't remember what that one is. And then more small stuff here. And then a star on the both sides of the turret. Now, it calls for number 2 or number 1. So it looks like number 2 is a nice clean star. Number 1 are these faded stars. Since I am modeling a vehicle that hasn't seen action much, that's my plan, I'm going to do just the regular stars. Now for those, I may use my Archer dry transfers, but I kind of need to decide if I need to see if I have one that matches that side. So I think with that, I think I'm going to call this video done, so I can let everything set really well, and then when I come back, then we can start working on the decals and then start working on some weathering stuff. I think, well, actually do the decals, then I'll do some detail painting, and then we can start with weathering underneath so we can get all that attached. So that's it for now on the Asuka M4A3 76 wet VBSS late. Thanks for watching, as always. And if you have any questions, comments, hints, tips, concerns, any of that kind of stuff, put them in the comments section down below. And I'll get back to you as soon as I can. So thanks for watching, and I will see you all later.